Good morning, everyone. My name is Rachel Herr, and I'm the Member Engagement Manager for the Southwest Indiana Chamber. And we at the Chamber have partnered with the Indiana Small Business Development Center, and we are just here to be your business resource all of the time, but obviously through COVID, this has been a difficult time for everyone, and it's been an opportunity for you all as business leaders and employees to really just kind of pivot and make some modifications to your business plans because of COVID, but also this is just an opportunity where we want to give you some food for thought to be able to make changes now and moving forward. So today we are excited to have our panelists, and I'm going to introduce Stephanie Eltwell, who is the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. That is a mouthful. For the Growth Alliance of Greater Evansville. However, Stephanie is also labeled Rachel Herr because I sent her the Zoom link that I had. So Stephanie, thank you so much, and we'll let you take it away.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having us today. It's so awesome to be part of this discussion. Yes, I am Stephanie Eltwell, not Rachel Herr. I am the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship with the Growth Alliance for Greater Evansville. We operate Innovation Point, and today we get to talk to some of our awesome Cowork Evansville members. For those of you unfamiliar, Cowork Evansville is a shared workspace. It's really a community of work from homers. Each of our panelists today has very unique, very different set of experience in working from home. And I really hope that their experience will help shed some light for you guys in this new realm that we're in, because some of us, this is a whole new ball game, right? So it's my pleasure to introduce you the first panelist and small business owner. That's Amy Bolek, also labeled Rachel Herr. Amy, can you give us
Hi guys, thanks for having me. And yes, I am not changing my name to Rachel Herr. Yes, I'm Amy Bolek, and my business is Bolek Grant Writing and Consulting Services. We've been in business about 16 years. And I've been a member of Cowork Evansville for, I want to say 5 to 6 years now.
Awesome, thank you. And next up is another small business owner, Kevin Heil with Spot On Solutions. Kevin, can you tell us what you do?
Sure. My name's Kevin. I'm the founder and chief solution provider, and also a QuickBooks Pro advisor. So I do a lot of bookkeeping and handling all of those details that nobody else wants to handle.
Beautiful. And finally, our third panelist is a remote worker with a group called UserTesting, and that is Sam Stevens. Sam, also labeled Rachel Herr. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Sam I'm an engineering manager at a software company called UserTesting. They're based out of San Francisco. I've been doing remote work for about 6 years. Been a Cowork Evansville member since I moved to Evansville about 5 years ago, and happy to be part of the panel.
Thank you, guys. So I'm sure all of you can tell that there's quite a lot of experience here, many years doing remote work. But for some of us, this is the brand new norm, right? It's going to take some getting used to, whether it's us working from home or our stakeholders. This is a whole new ball game, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So let's talk about best practices with our experts, starting with the simple stuff. Let's talk about getting stuff done and staying productive. So productivity for all of us that just went home can be very, very difficult to stay on top of. So Amy, can you tell us how you prioritize your activity and how you stay on task?
Sure. So first of all, what I try to do is I prioritize my tasks by hard deadline versus a soft deadline. And then I prioritize based on my current mood and just how focused and in the zone I'm feeling for that day. So for example, on days when I'm not feeling particularly creative or overly motivated, I will work on tasks that don't require a lot of focus or deep thought. So things like general administrative work, organization, project prep, different things like that. And then to stay on task, I really still prefer to kind of kick it old school and keep a handwritten list, either on a piece of paper, like next to my laptop, or I actually hung up a dry erase, like a small dry erase board that kind of hangs next to my desk. And so for me, just kind of keeping those to-dos just constantly in front of me all day just helps me to stay on task. Plus, it's very helpful for me to be able to actually check things off as I make progress throughout the day.
You know, it's got to be a lot harder to be productive when you are your own boss and setting those deadlines. So,
Most definitely.
Kevin, how do you also stay productive?
I'm going to look at my week and what's due on what date first. Then also with bookkeeping, I have some routine things that happen based on the time of the month or the day of the week. And then after that, I'm going to look at, just like I tackled my homework, whatever I don't like to do is what I do first and get out of the way so that I can get to the stuff that I enjoy.
Yeah, staying busy like that can get really stale very quickly, is what I learned in about week 2 of stay at home. So how do you guys stay motivated, like inspired to stay on what you're working on? Amy?
You know, to be honest, music is really a big motivator for me. And of course, it just kind of depends on the work that I'm doing, which is the type of music I choose for that particular piece of work that I'm doing. I also try to take breaks every couple of hours to just kind of get away from my desk and get away from my computer screen. And also just, you know, even though I do here at home have a designated space to work, I like to move around to different areas of the house. So I'll, you know, either move to a different room or even sit out on my patio for just a change of scenery. And just quite often I'll find that just doing that, changing my surroundings, can do wonders for my motivation and productivity.
You have anything to add, Kevin?
Yeah, I do music as well, like Amy. On nice days in the fall and spring, or if we get a cool day in the summer, I'll take a second monitor and go out to our screened-in porch. I really like to get some sunlight, be by a window. My office space, which does not move around the house like Amy's, is in the basement. And so if I'm here, I'm gonna probably open the blinds to get some sunlight in. Amy knows that when I've been on a phone call with her and I'm outside, she'll hear the birds chirping through the mic. So we do that a lot.
That's awesome. I think one of the biggest shocks for me when working from home was this compulsion to sit at my computer all day, every day. I honestly think I felt guilty about working from home. And so that just made me want to overwork. So how do you guys avoid that burnout, right? Because after I overworked, I didn't want to work at all, right? How do you avoid that burnout when you're working from home?
So I'll be, you know, complete disclosure and honesty here. Burnout is just hitting really close to home for me right now. I'm having good days and I'm having bad days, as I'm sure most of us do. So what I've been trying to do is to continue to just take those needed breaks throughout the day and maybe just take them a little more often. I find that just connecting during the day with my friends and colleagues on Slack and social media can help quite a bit just to kind of keep things moving. And I also, you know, alter my hours so that I'm working at times of the day where I feel that I'm at my best. So right now for me, that's not 8 to 5. That looks more like 10 to 7, to be honest. And so then the last thing that I try to do is I just try to take time to set some things aside and focus on innovation, focus on things that are fun to do. And so for me, that would be things like planning new ways to grow my business. And so sometimes just kind of taking a break and focusing on something that's more fun, that helps, you know, kind of keep that burnout at bay.
Oh, that's awesome. How are you guys able to separate those work and life activities? We haven't heard from you yet, Sam.
I was hoping to go through this whole thing without saying anything. I have a backpack. I have laptops that I work with, and every morning or every night I close my laptops and I pack everything into my backpack and zip it up and put it in a corner. And then when I wake up in the morning after I, you know, wrestle the kids and get everything and ready for myself, I take my backpack out of the corner and I unzip it and I put everything back up. And so that simple task kind of helps my brain switch from like work mode to home mode. And it's kind of helps for me.
Oh, that's cool. What about you guys? Amy, Kevin?
So for me, this has not always been easy. It took some time to get into that groove a little bit. And it's really mostly very mental. I have to literally tell myself I'm at work now, and everything else has to wait. And this really just kind of helps me set that boundary. And then when it's time to quit, I try to close out all of my business apps, platforms, etc., so that in the evening, if I want to use my laptop for personal things, I'm not tempted to check my work email or jump back into a work document when I should be just putting that aside for the evening. But honestly, if I'm really crazy stressed out in a project, everything gets put up: my computer, my phone, paperwork, everything. And that's really just to kind of protect my mental health more than anything.
Absolutely.
I'm really horrible about the separation part of it. And it was actually easier to work when the family wasn't here at home. Once everybody came home, my wife was upstairs. We live in a bi-level, upstairs with my son doing schoolwork. And then downstairs, my daughter, a college student, and I were sharing the basement. And so I actually hung a shower curtain behind me so that when I did Zoom calls, she was out of sight and she could come and go behind the curtain. And then because of the noise upstairs, when we moved in, there was actually a door at the bottom of the stairs. And it's like, why in the world? And so we put it in the garage and we actually got it back out to keep the noise separation. So it was quite an adjustment for us.
And it was a joy for the coworkers to get to see that curtain reveal. So for those of you that missed it, it was a whole lot of fun. So let's switch bases. So now we've talked about productivity, staying on task, staying motivated. Let's talk about communication. We all have very different stakeholders, whether that's consultants or employees, vendors, contractors, coworkers, supervisors, and the big one for all of us is clients. And since we know that communication is the #1 cause of conflict since the beginning of time, it's expected that moving to work from home scenario is going to cause some issues, and there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. So let's go with Sam, since he's such a little shy bird. Since you have that full gambit of stakeholders to communicate with, let's start with, how do you stay engaged with your colleagues, and how do you keep the project on task?
So I'll take this into the engagement part. Before COVID, user testing was probably 50% remote. We had offices in multiple cities around the world. And so when we switched to remote, there was already a large portion of us that had a remote culture. So some of us had just literally scheduled Zoom happy hours, like boot camps, Zoom boot camps. User testing is pretty good. They have wellness Wednesdays, and they've had like Pilates for like a half an hour that everyone can, whoever is available, can join. Or even one funny thing, our CEO had story time. So our CEO hopped on a Zoom and read a story to all the kids, and you can see everybody was on there with their cameras, and their kids were saying hi and listening to the story. And so that's been kind of fun, but it also just, you have to literally schedule these times on people's calendars and be deliberate about encouraging engagement. And then to keep our projects going, we have weekly or daily stand-ups, and we just kind of tell everybody what we're doing, what we're working on, and then we've been able to take notes and summarize that, what everyone said, to kind of hold each other accountable, but also ensure that we all have a clear understanding of what other people are doing for that day.
How long does a stand-up typically last?
We got we're up to like 7 people now, and if it's clean, we can do it in 15 minutes, but usually we take we schedule half an hour, and we take the last half to do planning or other discussion. So we try to get the stand-up portion done in the first 15 minutes, and then if there's any questions that the team wants to make a decision on like which technical route do we want to go on, or which project should we focus on first, then we kind of do that at the tail end.
And then do you have a hard cutoff at that 30-minute mark?
No, but we usually have a meeting at that part. So then we're just like, yeah, we all got to jump to another meeting, another Zoom. So then it's just Zoom hopping.
I think that's a good practice to have in place. Do you have any other suggestions for maintaining personal relationships with your coworkers?
Yeah, so I try to be a clown, and I let my kids say hi if they come in. Our CEO is actually, it kind of starts with the leadership. He's been pretty good about, he's had kids interrupt. He was working out of his garage for a while, and he's got a handful of rambunctious boys. So there was hockey equipment back there. So every once in a while, there'd be like fighting over the hockey sticks. And he'd just calmly mute and say, guys, stop. Yeah.
And so let's talk about the hard one. What about change management or conflict resolution? So businesses are still adapting. They're still updating their processes for efficiency's sake. They're still rolling out new product lines. And all of this takes communication, which again takes strong opinions and collaboration with your coworkers. How do you and your team work through this?
So we actually had this come up. We had a team of 4 of us, and then we got a new person joined our team that just didn't quite mesh, didn't quite have that same chemistry, natural chemistry that the rest of us did. So for a while, we were trying to figure out what's going on, and our team lead kind of talked to each of us independently, and then we kind of discovered that it was mostly about the language, and some of the terms people were using, like actual vocabulary was ambiguous. Someone would say what does success mean? What and they'd want to even defining what success meant to in a phased approach, because one of them wanted success to be the final solution, but we all wanted success to be walking towards the final solution. As long as we're walking towards that final solution, that's success, and we want to show progress. And so we just had literally scheduled a Zoom meeting and just talked about the problem, the elephant in the room. And thankfully that went well. But a lot of times that, it's difficult for people to communicate, to say it out loud. And then that was when we started to issue the note-taking part to keep everyone clear on this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do, and this is what success means.
So then you're documenting when you're having those conversations to help everybody move forward. That's really, really, really awesome. Thank you, Sam. Okay, so let's talk about clients, right? Amy and Kevin work directly with their clients. How do you guys stay connected and keep your clients productive when working from home and through this technology?
So, I really just kind of stay connected through just consistent email, phone, or text communication. And sometimes that can be work related, or it could just be a text to say, hey, I hope you have a great weekend. Just some way to kind of keep that personal connection going. And then I'm also friends with many of my clients on social media. So I communicate with them, even in the evenings and on weekends in that regard as well.
Awesome. Kevin?
I used email, phone calls, texting, the normal routes. But at the beginning of this COVID stuff, I had just saw a webinar on becoming an advisor or being that go-to person for my clients. And so then all the PPP payment or paycheck protection plan information started coming out. I was like, I'm going to jump on this. And so I was diving into it and then feeding it to my customers. And because I got there first with it, I was their go-to. So just being on top of things and passing it to your customers, even through email, was beneficial.
That's awesome. So staying ahead of that game has really been beneficial for you guys. What about new clients? You two are 100% responsible for acquiring your own revenue. So how are you guys identifying and selling your services to new clients?
So for me, I have been so lucky through the years. Most of my business has come primarily through word of mouth referrals. And so I've never had to really make a whole lot of effort there. But the cool thing about the time that we're in now is I'm actually finding that just with increased participation in webinars and Zoom presentations, it's giving me some additional exposure to some potential clients that I didn't have before, because a lot of times you'll get a list of folks who attended with contact information. And so I've made a few new LinkedIn connections just from you know, participating in some more presentations and things like that online.
So, all right, thank you guys. And before we open up to general questions from the group, let's discuss really quick what this all means in terms of how business is going to change. You know, we've witnessed adaptations in retail service. Zoom has seen major upticks in activity. I've worked with and interviewed groups like Heil Architecture, who is now redesigning rooms that they've already designed based on this whole new set of rules. So we're seeing a lot of transitions, and we're seeing a lot of updating and new ventures coming out of these businesses. How have you guys adapted or changed your services to accommodate the new way of doing business? And so, Sam, I think you have a great example of that transition, right?
Yeah, this is actually not my story, but a friend's story. He started off he left the company, started another company that was to serve him and his buddies beer. He made a robot to serve himself beer at like bars, but that had huge liability concerns. So he pivoted that to online ordering. So to kind of put a white labeled web application, just a website in front of stores, like any kind of restaurant, to just do mobile online ordering or even ordering from the actual store. And when COVID happened, that's a really nice business to be in, to help the restaurants do online ordering. And so his monthly revenue went from like 10K to over 90K a month. And then that took off, and he got an offer for an acquisition by another larger company. And then he also, at the same time, got was a VC or venture capital funding round to develop the company further. And he ultimately ended up taking the VC money to build the company bigger. So that's kind of a good success story from this.
So he saw a need and he adapted his current idea and made it work for him and the community that he lives in. That's really a great story. What about you guys, Amy?
So for me, it's more focused on how I'm working with my clients, and sort of learning to adjust to the transition to more virtual meetings and presentations. I'm just one of those people who I just really prefer face-to-face. So, you know, it's more interactive, it's more conversational. So what I've been trying to do is, first, I'm trying to encourage folks to turn on their cameras during our Zoom calls so we can feel more connected and just not feel like strangers. And then I'm just personally working on myself, just feeling more comfortable in front of the camera, trying to remember to look directly into the camera. Just all those things make such a big difference when you're making that connection. In my business with my clients, yes, we're providing a professional service, but it's always been very relational for me. So I'm trying to continue to try to maintain that easygoing personality and kind of that presence that I would have if I were meeting with my folks in person. It's really important to me that my clients continue to feel comfortable with me. So really, this has been just kind of a huge change and adjustment. That, coupled with just learning how to screen share and make the experience a little more interactive. And so I'm having to kind of hone my skills with, you know, putting together Google slide presentations and making sure that the information I'm sharing with them is relevant and interesting and applicable.
Awesome. Well said. Kevin?
I was used to more face-to-face meetings as well. So virtual meetings, I was actually feeling more productive because I could close off this Zoom meeting without having to drive to the next meeting. But those first few meetings with each of my clients, because we're screen sharing their accounting software and such, I was having to teach them, you know, how to use the buttons, where to find the buttons, how to work the systems, because it was kind of new to them. The other thing was having to work completely from home, whereas I don't go to Cowork Evansville every day, once or twice a week, or when I have meetings. But I was missing out, or I am missing out on that networking, sharing ideas, and just the camaraderie that we had. So I'm ready to get back to the old ways.
Yes, there is something definitely motivating about in-person interaction, right? So last question, since you've spent so much time in this work from home world, more than the rest of us, I'd like to hear what your guys' predictions are for the next year. What changes do you predict will happen to the world of business, so to speak? Sam?
Well, I think especially in the tech industry, and you've seen this some with Facebook, that some of the larger Silicon Valley companies are allowing their workforce to be remote. So that I think that'll also spread out the salaries around the country to kind of normalize it, either both probably bringing up the salaries in places like Evansville, and it'll be interesting for the real estate in San Francisco if that drops because of people not having to be in San Francisco or Silicon Valley to work for those companies. So it could be a good benefit for places like Evansville and even like Tulsa. My brother's moving to Tulsa and they have a huge remote incentive. So I think that might be fun.
That's awesome. Amy?
I just think that even when things begin to open back up, we're still going to see a lot less in-person connections and more virtual. I just feel like that culture is going to shift. But in the world that I work in, which is, my clients are primarily nonprofit, I'm seeing that many of them are finding success with this. I just had a client who held an online auction. Normally they have it in person and it's this big, huge, awesome event. They had to move it virtual. And it was so successful. They raised so much money and it was amazing how they pulled it off. I was actually in awe of how organized and how it came, how they were able to pull it together. And that just kind of showed me that there are ways to overcome these obstacles. And I think we're going to see folks get creative. They're going to start getting more innovative. And it's kind of exciting to see, really. But the other thing, just to kind of Sam's point too, with regard to remote work, I just really hope that companies will listen to their employers or their employees when they hear things like, man, I've been so happy and productive at home. I hope that they'll listen and maybe open up and provide some more flexibility in that area.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for participating today, and I wanted to open up real quick if anybody had any questions for our panelists. You can drop those in the chat. Some things that we should talk about real quick are Zoom practices that are our best practices. Amy mentioned it. Number 1 is turning on your camera. Number 2 is looking at your camera. I'm the worst. I look at my second monitor over here. Number 3 would be using that mute button frequently and often. Number 4 would be using the chat to have a side communication. And number 5 would be reactions are fun and people enjoy them. Right? Any others, guys, that you want to throw in there? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Nice job, Cindy. Rachel, anything to close out?
I was just going to say thank you all so much for your time, panelists, and for attendees as well. We hope this was beneficial for you. If you all are not familiar with the services of the Small Business Development Center, it is free, confidential advising in vast areas of business. So obviously right now, as we've mentioned, a lot of places are having to change their practices or pivot based on the impact of COVID. But they provide advising in regards to marketing, managing employees, strategic planning, succession planning. They have all sorts of skills. So if you all are needing assistance, you can contact 812-425-7232. And we will be more than happy to connect you with the appropriate advisor for your need. That's all. Thank you.